Hello there, in this video we're going to take a look at how easy it is to edit audio files or events as we call them in Cubase in this main window of our DAW. Now this is called the project window and I've made up a track purely from audio samples, and as I bring them in they become events. As I click on these events you can see the waveform represented down below in the editor. So what we're going to do today is edit that waveform. We can edit things up in the project window. So we can edit things like a fade in. We can change the clip gain, which is basically changing the volume of the track, which is handy if we're mixing on the fly. But as I change that volume, nothing is happening to the original waveform, even when I do a fade out. So what I'm going to show you is how to impact one individual event. Before I do that, I'm just going to change the color on this track so you can see what I'm editing. Let's make sure the event's selected, go to Audio, Processes, and now you can see just how many processes there are. Let's take a look at 5 of the most useful processes when it comes to music production and audio editing. Now the first one is gain. So as soon as I select gain, I get the direct offline processing window. Now here we can add plugins to this audio event that we've got highlighted. We can also add more processes, and the auto apply function will mean that as soon as we hit play in that little section with the loop going, whatever we do is automatically applied to our waveform, which means that basically we're editing these parameters on the fly. So you can hear that's become really soft, and that's because I've dropped the gain. Now let's raise it up again, and you can hear the difference and you can see the difference. Now the risk that we run when we're changing things like gain is that we're going to increase the gain too much and it's going to sound too loud and it's going to sound distorted, and basically it's going to be clipping. So there's a nice little fail safe in here, and just to the right of the parameter there you'll see if a clip is actually detected. And that's great because we don't need to necessarily rely on our ears or our eyes, and an audio file which is clipping means that it's peaking and it's just too loud. Number 2 is normalizing an audio event. Now normalizing means bringing it up or taking it down or adjusting the volume to a level which is normal. So there's 2 ways we can do this. The first one is using maximum peak level, and that's looking at the peaks in the waveform. So we can raise the volume up and Cubase will detect where the peaks are. The second one is integrated loudness, and this is based on what we perceive to be loudness. So the first one's almost based on those peaks. The second one is based on a relatively new method of metering audio. And you need to be careful using this one because you can actually clip your WAV file. So you'll see there at the start, the peaks are a little bit truncated or chopped off. But normalization is a really important process when it comes to working with audio events. Another really important process, well, I say important, I use it a lot, is reversing that audio. So now already if you compare the second clip to the third clip that we're editing, you can see that it's louder and the waveform looks different because now we've got this crescendo, or it's gradually dynamically getting louder. So I'm just going to move this to a point in time in my track which is coming up to, say, a main event, and that might just be the end of a verse or the start of a chorus. So now it's just going to build into it. So it's a really easy process. That's how you reverse an audio event, and it's something that a lot of producers use to add dynamics to a track. Another really important process is the ability to time stretch audio, to make it longer or shorter. Now, when I imported this, it was automatically time stretched to my tempo, and that's because it's in musical mode. If I disengage musical mode, it goes back to its original tempo. Now my event's not in musical mode, I'm moving it into position, and I'm going up to this little icon here, and this will show me all of my processing history. So it's showing me everything that I've added. Now I'm going to go back and add time stretching again now that it's not in musical mode, and now I'll get all of the parameters. So on the left hand side I can see the original length, and as I move across I can see the time stretching options that I have available to me. DAWs require an algorithm to time stretch and also change pitch, and Cubase has a number of amazing algorithms, and the most professional one is that Elastic Pro. And what you'll need to do is go through and just sample or listen or preview to a number of these different algorithms to find which one best suits your music production. And look, it may not always be the best quality. I know a lot of people using the lower quality algorithms just because they like the sound of it. So I'll leave that up to you to mess around with and find the one that really works for you. It probably makes a lot of sense to actually do some time stretching before you go too far down the path of choosing your algorithm. And we do that using that parameter down the bottom. So as we move it over to the right, it will stretch out this audio event and make it longer. To the left will obviously make it shorter. So as we move it, you'll be able to see those parameters above that actual knob itself change. And that just basically gives you the statistical information of what's going on in the actual event itself. So that's time stretching. There's a number of different ways to do it in Cubase, and I'm not saying this is the most efficient way, but it's a way of just being able to time stretch that one individual event. And it's probably the earliest way of being able to do something like this in Cubase. So for those of you that are used to having this there, then it hasn't been taken out and it's still very much available to use. Next up, we've got fade in, and look, fade out is exactly the same, so it's just in reverse. So once you select fade in, you can see we've got our line there, which very quickly turns into a curve, and we can start to add a fade in based on a number of different types of curves. So you can see the waveform actually changing as we move this curve around, and we can basically get a really precise fade in and fade out of each event that we have selected, which is really handy for me, especially with this sweep coming up. So if I want it to stay quieter for a little bit longer, then I can use those parameters. And of course, we can save presets and recall presets. I did say I was only going to show you 5, but I really can't let you go without showing you pitch shifting, because that is also an important process, and especially if we're just applying it to one audio event. Now, there's so many different ways of being able to pitch shift in Cubase. I guess this is really applicable if you're already using the processes inside the direct offline processing. So basically that red key shows us the original key, which is C. Cubase has automatically detected it, and we just click on another key to transpose it. Hey, thanks for taking the time to check out this video. There's another video specifically on the direct offline processing functionality, and that will show us some more tips and tricks on this window. So please do subscribe to the Cubase YouTube channel and check out the video on direct offline processing. I'm going to see you there.